Hello everyone, my name is Shannon and this is Made by Boo. Welcome back. I am recording again from a little outside Boise, Idaho. I'm not a native from here. I came here a few years ago, which we'll play in a little bit later when I talk about life stuff. But here I am here to talk about some knitting and crochet this week. I have one finished object and 4 works in progress. And I am so excited about the progress I've made on some of them. So I'm going to dive right on in with my first finished object. Let me pull out my tag here. I've been keeping them all in this little clip, which is sometimes very, very helpful. But as you can see, there's a lot of them on here. So when I talk about my works in progress, it's not necessarily the only things that I have going, but it's definitely the only things that I have going actively. So this finished object is a pair of socks, and it is using Ruby and Roses on the Soft Rose base. So that is an 85 superwash merino, 15% nylon. This is the color Whispering Pines and Candlewick. And as you can see, I blocked them. I usually wait to trim little strings until after blocking, and I thought I had already trimmed them, and I didn't. So I will go back in and trim the strings later. But here is my finished pair of socks. So they were just a simple vanilla pair of socks. They don't seem to want to fit very well on these blockers. Like, they keep not going into the heel. I don't know entirely why. Maybe I did something weird with the heel. Anyway, so I did a simple striping at the top where I did 4 rows, 4 rows, 4 rows, 4 rows, 4 rows of each color, kept it nice and even. I did a slip stitch heel, rounded toe, just a very simple vanilla sock pattern. I have a very basic vanilla sock pattern that I go back to, which is really, I say it's a pattern I go back to. I cast on the same number of stitches. Sometimes I do a 1x1 rib. These happen to be a 1x1 rib. Sometimes I'll do a 2x1, 3x1, whatever. I pick my ribbing, do it about 20 to 25 rows. I've done it as little as 12 rows before, but lately I've been on a slightly longer ribbing. Make the foot as long as I feel like, and then make the heel whatever I feel like. Foot until it fits. Like, it's not exactly the same every time, so it feels strange to call it like my vanilla sock. But it's really just, I know how many to cast on, and then from there, I adjust it to whatever I feel like for that particular time. So that is my only finished object. It sounds a little bit sad when I'm like, oh, I only have one. But I am so close to having more, and honestly, I always have a pair of socks going, so it feels like having only one finished pair of socks is still quite a bit to be done. The next thing that I have is another pair of socks. I actually have 3 pairs of socks going to talk about this time. One was the finished object. This next pair is using yarn from A Busy Life. Let me see if I can get that. I know it doesn't always focus on the logo. But this is in the color Roasted Marshmallow. I ordered this as a part of like a mystery grab bag from her on Etsy a while back, and I absolutely loved it, but it was a mystery grab bag sock set, so I'm not sure if the Roasted Marshmallow is like the sock set or if it's just the main skein, but it had this as a little, it's like kind of, I don't know, burnt sienna. I really don't know what shade this is exactly. What came mini skein, and then this was the main skein. So I am actually doing a specific pattern for these. I am doing the Vanilla is the New Black sock pattern. I saw Nitty Natty working on them, and I just thought the heel looked so cool. I wanted to try it. I instantly messed up on the pattern a little bit because I just started in on my ribbing and did the wrong one, but it was okay. So the heel was really what I was interested in, so that's fine. I followed the pattern for that. So I did 6 rows of the main skein, 4 rows, 5 rows of the stripe, 3 rows, 5 rows, 6 rows. Yeah, that should have come out to 25 rows. And then I did another, got a light bulb marker that came undone. I did another 35. Let me see. Another 30 rows after that before I started the heel. Sorry. I have stitch markers, the little light bulb stitch markers going all on this side so that when I make the second sock, it matches. I don't yet know if I'm going to like the fit of these heels. But I thought it looked so interesting. It had great texture. And I figured with something like this where like the color is pretty, but it's not an excessively fancy color. It's mostly white. It's got little flecks of stuff. I thought having the textured heel would be fun. So we're going to see where that goes. I finished the heel completely, and I'm now going to do the foot. Obviously, I did not use my contrast color for the heel because it had a different kind of heel. That was never really going to be a consideration for me. I have considered either doing the toe in the contrast color, or before I start doing the toe, like do 1 or 2 very thin stripes of my contrast color down there. But I could just have only the stripes at the top and end it there. I've gotten pretty far on it, but this is the first sock, so I'm not quite as, there's not really a lot left to talk about. I have another sock to go. And while I think the heel looks very cool, at the end of the day, whether I make it again is going to depend on how it fits. I've tried it on a little bit to see what I'm going to have to consider for the length of the foot, but trying it on is different than actually blocking the sock, putting it on, and wearing it and seeing if it stays where it's supposed to. And for me in particular, at least, with my hand knit socks, sometimes they twist, sometimes they don't. I also tend to use a slightly bigger needle than other people do, so I end up with a more open weave, which may affect how that is. When I use the smaller needle size that other people use, I tend to feel like it makes it so that it doesn't have enough stretch, it feels like, to go over my foot. So instead, my hand knit socks tend to be just a little bit looser. Anyways, that's a whole bunch of words to talk about. Not a lot, other than I'm hoping I like that heel, because I think it's very cool, and while I have to follow the pattern, it's definitely not a vanilla sock for me at this point. It's nice to have that little variation. Yeah. So my next pair of socks, this is from East Coast Yarn Co. I just got this yarn a couple of months ago in January. It was their January yarn of the month. I ordered it from Etsy. It's not like an actual subscription that I'm signed up to get every single month. I thought about getting the next month, and then it was sold out, and I'm trying not to buy too much yarn right now, and I already have other yarn coming on a consistent basis, so there's that. But this color was Dried Flowers. I'm not very far on this particular sock. So I decided to start just another completely vanilla sock so that I'd have one that was very, very boring. And all I've really done is 20 rows of 1x1 rib and about 5 rows on the leg. So it's not very far, but it's a very, very pretty color. And I really wanted something that was completely not needing a pattern. With the vanilla is the new black. While I don't need the pattern for all of it, the heel, I don't know how to do that just by reading the pattern or just by reading the sock entirely yet. So I will have to work on that a little bit more before that can be a completely independent of the pattern sock. And even then, we'll see if I really want to do that. But because sometimes I do want something where I don't have to pay attention to it at all, I could just sit there and knit, I went ahead and cast on an additional pair of socks. When I finish the vanilla is the new black socks. I may make the other pair my main pair, or I may just keep it a little longer as a backup. We'll see what I'm feeling like doing. So I'm going to move my stuff around just a little bit and grab my last 2 works in progress, because these are the 2 that I am very excited about the progress I've made on them. All right, so the next 2 projects that I have going are both blankets. I'll start with the slightly more simple pattern. Ooh, my yarn is all mixed up. So this is the Cozy Comfort Throw by a homespun house. I know I did forget to say who the Vanilla is the New Black sock pattern was by, but I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I will link to it below so that you can find it. I've been staring at the pattern, but like at the instructions, not the designer. So this is the Cozy Comfort Throw. The designer is a homespun house, and it is using my 2022 advent calendar from Mothy and The Squid. So this is what I have left. I believe I'm on color number 17. I can count it technically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, so I am on color number 17 of 24. So I'm getting decently close to the end. And let me see. It looks like my stitch markers are over here. So here's where I was last time we spoke. So I got through 1, 2, 3, and maybe a quarter colors. This has been a very nice one to work on, like at the end of the day after putting my stitch marker in, after work when I'm just kind of sitting there with my kiddos in that little bit of time, because it is all garter stitch. And I will see if I can slowly drop this. I had an idea of how to make it so it would go more even, and then I did not properly set up. So it's super squishy, super cozy, but also very, very simple. I am really hoping to finish it soon because we are in March, and here in Idaho, March can be like warm or cold. Right now, it's starting to get a little bit warm. So working on big, thick blankets like this that lay all the way over my lap, and this one, if you follow me on Instagram, you know this one attracts the cat. As soon as I sit down with this in my lap, she is on top of me, somehow zoomed into this. So I'd really like to finish this before it gets too much warmer, because once it gets really warm, I'm not going to want to sit with this much wool in my lap with a cat there as well. So it is currently being held double with Knit Picks Stroll fingering weight, and yeah, I'm very proud of the progress I've made on this. I'm not quite zooming along, but I'm at the point where it's like I feel like I could finish it within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So very excited to be not only like working on it, but being close to done. I really need to not put that underneath. I'm sure that was such an attractive angle. So the blanket that I am very, very excited to share progress on is my data blanket. Guys, I am getting so close to being done. So for anybody who is new here, this is a blanket that is made very similar to a temperature blanket, but instead of local weather patterns, this was tracking test scores I was making as I was studying to pass an exam. So I definitely cannot hold it up top to bottom and have it all on the frame. So let me see if we can show how long. Ooh, let me flip it over. Okay, so starting at the end, this is where I started. I think I started it last June or July. I'm sure I have it written down somewhere. This is using Cascade Heritage yarn. And each test is 1 row. When you see one of these big ones, that is a larger test that was seeing if I would be able to pass the main exam. So those are 2 rows. Other than that, each test I took was 1 row. So, I mean, you can see how long this is getting. Right here, where the little pigeon is, that is where I was 2 weeks ago. Now, it's got to be about 4 weeks ago now, I actually counted up how many tests I had left to put in and figured if I got about 30 done a week, I could finish it in 2 months. I got so much done over the last 2 weeks. So there's my pigeon. and I got all of this done in the last 2 weeks. I don't even know if that's all fitting in the frame. I hope so. In the first week, since I last filmed, I got 54 rows done. In the last week, I got 80 rows done. So I got 134 rows done in 2 weeks. According to what, adding in what I did this morning, which I am counting my weeks of Sunday to Saturday. So I have like 1 weekend day to get a jump start on it and another weekend day to really like finish it. So I did a few more rows this morning that are counting on towards next week. I have like 60-ish rows left to go. So with that, I could theoretically be done with this by the next time I film. And I am so excited. It's not very, very wide. I made it with the idea. I don't currently have any yarn connected to it. But I studied sitting in this chair with a different shawl around me. And so that was what I wanted this to be, is like sit over my shoulders kind of shawl. Like curl up on the couch. And like the length was determined on that. And guys, it is already so cozy. Down here where I started, I blocked it to kind of see how much it was going to grow. So this side is definitely a little rougher. And you can see how I've started at this point, I've already started to take the big exams a lot more. And I'm so excited. I did not think I would get that much done over the last 2 weeks. But we're at the point where I was telling my daughter that, yeah, I could definitely get this done in the next 2 weeks. Still sticking to that, like, at least 30 rows a week. But technically speaking, I could theoretically be finishing this by next weekend based on the last several weeks I've done, and have it blocking and drying all during the week. And I am so excited. I did not think I'd get this close to finishing it. I do still technically have another similar blanket that I'm going to do because I did do 2 different sets of tests. This is one set of tests, and the original thought was to put them all into one, but that is part of why I blocked the first one, is it was like, okay, how far is it now? How much would it need to be one blanket versus 2 at this length? And at that point, it was like, no, I can't combine them. I need to do them separately. I'm not planning on casting on the second one. As soon as I finish this, I'm going to do it a different kind of stitch. I'm thinking that one may be Tunisian crochet, just to switch it up, keep them different. It has an entirely different color palette as well. But I am getting so close to being done with this. I am so excited, and I'm trying to really just push through, because as I get closer to finishing it, there is that small part of me that's like, yeah, you're almost done. You should treat yourself with a new project. But instead, I'm trying to be reasonable, and I'm trying to finish these 2 blankets that I'm working on. And then I can add in another new project as well as another long-term project. That is currently my plan. I keep trying to organize my projects. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, that's about all I really have to say over that. I mean, all I can really say is I'm super excited. I got so much done. In just a minute here, when I talk about life stuff, that'll say a little bit more why I got 80 rows versus my original idea of I can get 30 done in a week. But let me grab my newly acquired yarn. We can talk about that real quick, and then we'll get into life stuff. All right, so I don't actually have a whole bunch of newly acquired yarn. Just realized I left stuff laying out as well. Let me get that out of the way. All I really have this week is my Hand-Dyed Happy Yarn Club from So Happy Jane, this is probably one of the smallest amounts of acquisitions I've ever had. So each time I get 2 skeins of yarn, and then there's always a few little extras in there. When I opened the box this time, it smelled so good because I have a Woolen & Company lavender and citrus wool wash bar that was sitting right at the top. It smells amazing, but as soon as you open up the box, I was just hit with that smell. So I'm going to have some stuff finished again soon, so I've got a fun new wool wash for that. And then it also came with a Swede dishcloth. It came with a little card describing it. It is a reusable dishcloth that I guess is 70% wool pulp and 30% cotton. So it's compostable, and apparently it can replace up to 17 rolls of paper towels, but will eventually break down. I'm not entirely sure. I may have to actually look at this company's website, because there's that part of me that's like, yeah, but if it's compostable and everything, how fast is it going to fall apart once I start using it? But it's very pretty, and I mean, I'm definitely willing to try it. And then, of course, my 2 yarns. So this was the little picture that came with everything. And as you can see, the little lavender, get an idea of what the refresh theme may be. It very much makes me think of a field of lavender. This is a little bit too bright for a field of lavender, but it's still maybe it was just with the lavender on that and the lavender here, but beautiful. I am very excited about it. I love this very, very soft green, and this purple is so bright. I don't know what either one is going to be. I have been getting her yarn club for probably close to a year now. And some of the things, I do have a few that are going into very specific projects, but some things are some of them are just sitting there, and at some point I feel like I need to put them into a project together, but I don't know what that project will be, so we'll see. They may all end up going into various socks, or I thought about using some of them and just making some sort of a square to go into a blanket. Or I could get a bunch of them together to do a summer fade hexie blanket. Yeah, I'm really not sure exactly what I want to do with a lot of them, but I do want to start using them because I am acquiring them faster than I'm using them. But on that, I do plan on finishing some of those soon, because after I finish those blankets, the next long-term project that I've had going that I'm going to make a goal to finish is my Geo Gradient shawl using my Hand-Dyed Happy Yarn Club yarns. I'm a little disappointed I went ahead and started the Geo Gradient shawl, only because as I was working on it, I had that thought of, oh, this is so pretty. I'd love it as a blanket. And then I saw later he had released a blanket pattern, but at that point I was way too far in to see if I could convert it. But it's fine. I will finish it up as a shawl, and I will wear it as a shawl. And I'm clearly doing fine on making blankets right now. So that is really all I have of knitting and crochet content. I mean, considering 2 of my projects are blankets that have been going for a long time and you have seen them many times, I feel like I don't really have a lot of exciting stuff to add to that, other than pretty soon those will theoretically be finished, and you will only see them if I happen to have them draped over the chair here, like I have this one, which is not really draped so much as clumped. With life stuff, it has been kind of a nice 2 weeks. So in the first week after filming, I was at work. Everything was pretty much just normal, nothing super exciting. Work, my daughter's gymnastics, and then my oldest had spring break from college that week, but that didn't change her day-to-day schedule very much. Then this last week, my younger 2 had spring break from high school and elementary school. Yes, they really do have a big gap. It's a common thing that people ask about. It's not that interesting of a story. So they were on spring break. Our original plan had been to travel to visit family during this time, but then for a variety of reasons, we decided not to travel. So I changed my plans for leave from work, and I worked for 2 days and took 3 days off. So that is part of why I had enough time to do 80 rows on my data blanket this last week, because I had extra days off of work. But during those extra days off of work, we went and saw Kung Fu Panda with the kids. They really enjoyed it. It was cute. Definitely different because not all the same characters are there. A little predictable in some ways, but it is a kids movie, so hopefully I can predict some things in a kids movie. Let's see. So on Wednesday we did that. On Thursday, I spent most of the day building a greenhouse in my backyard. It was just one of those like kits from Costco, even for the small one, but it just took significantly longer and things kept going wrong. Friday, we went into downtown Boise and saw the Freak Alley Gallery. So it's just this little street where they have a whole bunch of like, it's not really graffiti because I think it's, intentional, but a whole bunch of art all over the walls. And it was just a really cool thing. We technically learned about it because, as I mentioned earlier, we are not natives of this area. We moved here in a roundabout way because of my husband's career with the military. And for Christmas, I got him this scratch-off poster that was, I think it's 50 things to do in the Boise area. And that was one of the things on there, was to visit the Freak Alley Gallery in Boise. And it was just a very cool thing to do. We also went to the bookstore, came home, relaxed. And then yesterday, my husband and I went to see the new Ghostbusters movie, which, if you enjoyed the first one, you would enjoy, the first of the reboot, you would also enjoy this one. But yeah, so we did a few more little fun things as a family. Today's been decently chill, and I go back to work tomorrow. But with all of those little things, it was fun things, but there was also more time to work on other stuff. And there's parts of me where it's like, man, if I hadn't wasted so much time getting frustrated over building that greenhouse, which I did finish, technically very happy it's done, but it took me so much longer than I expected it to. And it's like, man, if I hadn't done that, if we hadn't done this, I could have finished the data blanket. But I'm still really glad that we did the other things, because finishing one project is definitely not the same as all the other things that we did. And while there's a part of me that's definitely a little sad going back to work, like, I like what I do, but it's very different than having, like, time at home to kind of do what you want, spend time with your family, all of that. So I'm a little sad to go back to work, but it was definitely nice to have the few extra days. I got so much work done on that data blanket. I mean, none of my other projects feel like they got anywhere near as much work as that one. But I am so close to finishing it now. I feel like a month ago, I wasn't sure if I would ever finish it, let alone realistically seeing the end in sight. I definitely am glad I counted out the rows. I think having that as a goal was a very good thing for me. I think it helped a lot. I guess that's all I really have for today. I don't know if this is going to be a long one or a short one. It feels like it's a short one. But hopefully in 2 weeks when I come back, I'm sure I will have a lot less exciting things life-wise, because it will be back to work and business as usual with all of that. But I should have at least one finished blanket. Probably not two, but I'm hoping to have the data blanket done next time, and maybe the cozy comfort done the time after that. We'll see how fast that one goes. So that's all I have for today. Until next time, have a very happy making.